ceasefire in Syria was broken yesterday between pro-government and rebel forces. Syrian and Turkish aid workers are prepared to deliver supplies from Turkey to civilians in Aleppo after. Canadian actor Alan Thicke has died at the age of 69. He will be remembered for his role in the sitcom Growing Pains. He was pronounced dead yesterday in California. Toronto City Council has approved the controversial road tolls for the Gardiner Expressway and Don Valley Parkway. Hi, and welcome to Humber News. I'm Ken Keller, coming to you from our newsroom here at Humber College North Campus. People trapped in eastern Aleppo are scrounging for food during a temporary ceasefire. The ceasefire was struck Tuesday, but appears to be short-lived. The deal was negotiated so injured fighters and civilians could evacuate the city and gather resources. But the fighting started again today. According to Turkish officials, the breakdown happened because of demands from Syrian government forces. They were asking for the evacuation of people in opposition-held areas nearby. For the time being, the rebels have pulled back just enough for civilians in the eastern part of the city to access the aid that's been kept from them. The rebels have occupied eastern Aleppo since 2012, but have recently been pushed back into smaller areas by the Syrian forces and Russian-led airstrikes. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says he expects the rebels will stop their resistance in the next 2 to 3 days. After a passionate 12-hour debate, a new decision from City Council may take a toll on Toronto drivers.
No, wait, please. None of them would mind paying $2 if it is going to something meaningful. That's what you said, or this has been the grossest misquotation in the history of Toronto politics, and I'm prepared to join you in going up there right now and saying...
Toronto City Council has voted overwhelmingly to back Mayor John Tory's proposal to impose road tolls on the Gardiner and DVP. While the cost of tolls has not yet been decided, Tory says a $2 fee would bring in more than $200 million a year. He says the money will pay for infrastructure projects, including his Smart Track plan. Councillor Stephen Holliday urged Tory to pump the brakes on the decision, telling Torontonians to hang on to their wallets because they're about to get robbed. Tory says tolls will both ease congestion and promote use of transit. The proposal now goes to Queen's Park for a final decision. One person is dead and 3 others are unaccounted for after a house fire broke out early this morning in Port Colborne. A mother and her 2 children are believed to still be trapped inside the house, which caught fire around 1:30 this morning. Police say the home suffered such significant structural damage that it isn't safe to enter. An elderly woman was pulled from the blaze but was pronounced dead at the scene. The father and great-uncle were able to escape. The cause of the fire hasn't been determined. 1 man is dead and 3 people in hospital after 2 separate shootings overnight in Toronto. The first incident happened at Tropics Restaurant and Bar around 12:30 a.m. in the Eglinton and Markham area. Police say the victim is believed to be in his 20s. They say he ran across the street but collapsed after suffering gunshot wounds following an altercation. He was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead. A woman was shot in the hand while a 3rd victim suffered minor injuries. Police are still searching for a suspect who fled the scene on foot. Meanwhile, a man in his 20s is fighting for his life after he was shot in his car in North York early this morning. It happened shortly before 1:30 near Jane and Steeles. Police say the man was alone in his car when another vehicle pulled up beside him and fired before driving away. He was rushed to Sunnybrook Hospital with critical injuries. Paramedics say he suffered extensive blood loss. Police have not yet released a suspect description. Fans are remembering the life of beloved Canadian actor Alan Thicke today. The 69-year-old died of a heart attack last night while he was playing hockey with his youngest son in Burbank, California. He was transported to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Thicke, best known as the dad on the 80s sitcom Growing Pains, was born in Kirkland Lake, Ontario. He leaves behind his wife Tanya and 3 sons Brennan, Robin, and Carter. To Turkey now, where the Coast Guard has intercepted a boat of migrants attempting to sail to Greece. 53 people were aboard the vessel as it tried to make its way to the Greek island of Lesbos. The migrants were from a number of countries, including Syria, Afghanistan, and the Congo. Turkey agreed to a deal earlier this year to stem the flow of migrants in exchange for financial aid from the European Union. More than 1.3 million people arrived in Europe last year. Greenpeace is up in arms against the world's biggest supplier of nuclear energy. Greenpeace activists blocked the doors of the Paris headquarters of French utility EDF to protest against nuclear activities. Several activists scaled the building to hang a banner that says EDF has 74 billion euros of debt that keeps increasing. The government-run energy company is the world's largest operator of nuclear power. It provides over 75% of France's electricity. Angry demonstrators took to the streets of Sao Paulo to protest against Brazil's Senate decision to cap public spending for 20 years. The amendment is part of a government austerity drive to restore financial stability. Protesters are calling on the president to resign amid the worst economic recession in decades. Brazil's leftist opposition says the measures could cripple public education and health services. Demonstrators say the country's poorest will be the worst hit. Back at home, a new study says people in Toronto are suffering from the highest level of work stress in the province. And that's despite the highest percentage of employees with regular and flexible work hours. But what about the people who are trying to balance work and school? Corey Martinez has that story.
Moving to the big city may seem like it'll make life easier, but the well-being index may suggest otherwise. Despite Torontonians having the weekend off and greater flexibility than others in Ontario, a low after-tax median and high level of unemployment take away from the joys of living in the city.
It's a busy city. I come from Calgary. It's a smaller town than Toronto, so there are more people, more customers.
81% of residents reported being satisfied with their lives, but this is the lowest level in the province. The 2014 Well-Being Report showed that Ontarians' overall well-being lags behind the province's economic growth. While Ontario's GDP recovered by 11.2% after 2008's recession, students and graduates have to work 2 jobs or balance work, life, and school in order to scrape by.
I used to bartend downtown on quite a lot of nights per week, which was pretty exhausting, but show up for and be present at, which can be quite difficult. It's like a looming feeling that, you know, you have a lot of things to do and perhaps not the most time to achieve.
Transportation, high housing costs, discrimination, and a lack of affordable food were factors that the report says contribute to the stress.
Depending on where students are from, stress levels can be different.
I come from Mexico City and we have like 3 times the population as in Toronto, so I find it more stressful there. So here I feel like it's pretty chill, like you guys actually have transit that works.
Combating stress may rest solely on the individual. Music, organization, and lots of sleep may be the difference between a breakdown and a breakout.
Music, yeah. Just, I don't know, taking the time to chill, breathe, remind yourself that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
I sleep. I just go to sleep. Yeah. I take like 2-hour naps.
Corey Martinez, Humber News.
When we come back, we'll tell you what's happening in the world of sports. And Alyssa Souza Kerr-Paul will have your 3-day forecast.
You will want to dress in extra layers because an extreme cold weather alert has been issued for Toronto today. It will be a high of -4. I'll have your 3-day weather forecast after the break.
But first, take a look at some incredible images from Norway, where professional surfer Mick Fanning shreds some waves under the Northern Lights. Fanning teamed up with 2 Norwegian photographers who helped capture the rare sight. As the sun set, the Aurora Borealis took over the sky. Fanning says it's one of the prettiest surfs he's done in his life. Despite starting off with some snow and waiting for the 3-hour sunset, the result was well worth it.